Hello friends, welcome to this YouTube video program. Friends, in our earlier programs, we have discussed about various aspects of conducting educational research. We have discussed about various methods and its processes to conduct educational research. And today we'll discuss one of the very important topic, important concept, that is positivist and non-positivist paradigm. Non-positivist paradigm is also called as the humanistic paradigm in educational research. So friends, many a time as a beginner researcher, as a student of education, you might be facing certain confusion, certain difficulties to understand these two concepts. What is a positivist paradigm of educational research and what is a non-positivist paradigm, or that's called as the humanistic paradigm of educational research. So in this program, we will try to understand these two concepts. At the same time, we will also differentiate between the positivist and non-positivist paradigm in educational research. So friends, before discussing the concept of positivist and non-positivist paradigm, let us try to start our discussion by understanding what is educational research. You see, research is a very systematic inquiry based upon the scientific method and concerned with understanding, prediction, and control of phenomena. You see, when we talk about research, first of all, definitely maybe research in science, maybe research in social science, maybe research in education, even if in arts and humanities subject. So you will find that this is a very systematic work. This is a very systematic inquiry. Means you are inquiry certain things. Okay, certain, you can say certain facts, certain evidences, and that is based upon certain scientific method. Okay, so here I'm just telling one method, that is the scientific method, but at the same time, when you are conducting research in humanities, in different social science disciplines, you are using scientific, in science discipline also you are using scientific methods. At the same time, you are also using other methods also. And you can say, so what you are doing, you are concerning with understanding the fact, then you are predicting certain things also. On the basis of the prediction, you state the hypothesis, and you also, especially in the experimental types of research, you control the independent variable. Okay, so you being control upon your research, you control the situation, so that you get a type of you can say very reliable result, a valid result. So friends, when we talk about educational research, you see it applies the scientific method for systematic study of educational situations and solve educational problems. You see, when we conduct any research, as it is a very systematic and scientific work, so specifically when we conduct research in education, then you can say that definitely you are also using the systematic process for conducting the study, and you are also using a scientific method. But here, that systematic methods, or the procedure that you apply for studying the educational situations. Okay, the situations related to teaching and learning, situation related to curriculum, situation related to educational development. Okay, any aspect, educational leadership and management, educational administration. Okay, any guidance and counseling also. So in any aspects, in any educational situation, so you try to understand the situation, then you apply a scientific method, a systematic method to conduct the study, and you solve that problem, that educational problem, and you implement that result in the field. Okay, for, you can say, solving the problem. Then further, you can say, when we conduct educational research, we get certain data. Okay, so we taking a certain data, we conduct the research. So in educational research, mostly we deal with two types of data, that is the quantitative data as well as the qualitative data. So quantitative data, when we talk about quantitative data, means when we are getting data in terms of numbers, okay, in frequencies. So when you are getting data in terms of frequencies, in terms of percentage, then here there is the chance, there is the opportunity, there is the scope to use varieties of statistics, you can say. Maybe measures of central tendency, maybe measures of variability, maybe a parametric or a non-parametric statistics, okay, maybe a correlation statistics, maybe a t-test to know the significance difference between two means. So variety, or ANOVA you can also use. Varieties of statistics you can use when you are getting a quantitative data. But in the scope of educational research, you will be getting two types of data. It depends upon your nature of the problem. It depends upon your nature of the study. Then at the same time, you also get certain qualitative data, which is not in terms of numbers, which is not in terms of percentage. Okay. So when you are getting qualitative data, so you have to analyze that qualitative data. You have to describe that qualitative data. You have to narrate it. Okay. You have to interpret that qualitative data. So in the scope of educational research, so we are getting two types of data. Then again we can say, to understand educational research, here also the data that you are getting this data by using, you can say, two different resources. So one is the primary resource and other is the secondary resource. Okay. Primary resource means when directly you are involving as a researcher, you are going to the field, you are taking the interview of the subject. Okay. And you are observing, let in a classroom, you are observing the facts, you are observing the interaction which is going on in between the teachers and students to teach a particular subject, to teach a particular lesson. So many a time by using certain tools, maybe a test, maybe a questionnaire, maybe interview schedule, or by observing certain things, you are trying to get the primary data. And many a time for conducting educational research, you are using the secondary data. Okay. It may be in terms of a report of any committees, any commissions. It may be a terms of government document, government report, means which is already available, maybe in different archive, maybe different in our museum, maybe in library. Okay, so what you are doing, you are using different types of artifacts also which is available in the museum. So you are just analyzing that document, you are reading the document, you are doing a type of content analysis. So by you are collecting data, or you are getting data by using two sources, that is the primary sources as well as the secondary sources. So friends, for conducting educational research, first of all, we do a systematic study, we do a type of scientific study, and we study the educational situations, educational problems. Then accordingly, we get the solution. By conducting the research, we get the solution of the problem. Okay, and by getting the solution of the problem, then your further work is to implement the result, implement the findings. Then as I have already said that we used two types of sources, the primary sources and the secondary sources, for getting data in educational research. Let us further discuss that when we conduct educational research, where we get the data, who are the subject. You see, basing upon the nature of the problem, nature of the study, your scope of the study, many a time you may get data from the school. So school may be a subject. You may get data from any educational institution, maybe a school, college, maybe any or university, any research institute. Okay. Then apart from the schools, apart from the educational institutions, you are also getting data from other institutions also. Okay. Like your Panchayat Raj system, like your office of the sarpanch, that is in the village level, even if you can say at the district level, at the tahsil level, you also get certain data from different institutions, from block education office, from district education office, okay, from state education office, you can also get data. Then we can also make subject to the students, to the teachers, to the parents, to the community members. Okay, so they are the stakeholders. At the same time, for conducting educational data, we get data by making these stakeholders as the subject. We get data from the students, we use certain questionnaires, certain tests, certain interview, from the teachers also, from the parents also, from the community members also, because they are involved in the in the teaching learning process, in education, in the school system. Then you can also get data from different social groups and from community. Okay, for doing a type of longitudinal study, for doing a type of ethnographic study, for doing a type of cross-sectional study. So you are dealing a community, you are dealing a society, a group. So from there also you get data. And many a time for conducting a type of philosophical research, so you study about the ideas, about the vision, about the ideals, about the thoughts of the great personalities. Maybe Mahatma Gandhi, maybe Rabindranath Tagore, maybe Sri Aurobindo, maybe Swami Vivekananda. So what you are doing here, you are studying their vision, you are studying their ideas, you are studying their educational thought. So here also this is a type of qualitative study that you are doing in philosophical, by using the philosophical method. So here also by making subject to the great personalities and the work that they have conducted, which is available, the documents and you can say the materials which is available in different libraries, different museums. So what you are taking, you are using that secondary data and you are conducting your study. Then for historical development and events, you also use the historical development, the development of education in India after independence, before independence. Okay, so you are studying the report of the different committee and commissions of education, and you are analyzing it, and from there you are getting certain extract, certain and you are interpreting it whether this has been having certain contextual use of the developments of the recommendation of certain commission in the present education system or not. So that also you are doing. Then as I have already said that you analyze the reports, you are doing a type of content analysis of different documents, you are using the artifacts for getting the primary data for conducting your research, then committee report and committee and commissions. Then you also do a type of observation, experimentation, interview, and you also use certain test. Okay, so tools also you use for getting data. Then next what you are doing, for you also conduct certain types of survey, maybe a naturalistic survey, maybe a scientific survey, or you also visit to the field. Okay, so friends, for conducting educational research, you have to make you have to decide as per the nature of your problem, who is the subject of your study and where you will get the data. Next, let us try to understand what is a paradigm first. Then after understanding the concept of paradigm, then next we will discuss that what is a positivist paradigm and what is a negativist, non-positivist paradigm or humanistic paradigm. Friends, you see, a paradigm can be defined as a way of looking at a phenomenon or a broad perspective of it. Try to understand, I repeat it. A paradigm can be defined as a way of looking at a phenomena or a broad perspective of it. Okay, so you see, we have for conducting a research, we have a research problem. So whenever we have a research problem, then we understand that what is the perspective, what is the context of this problem. So what we want to study. Okay, so if you'll go through the operational definition of the terms used, okay, and at the same time when you will go through the research questions and research objectives, you see the research, you are framing the research questions, you are framing the research objectives as well as the hypothesis as per the perspective of the study, as per the nature of the problem. So here you see, you have to analyze, you have to study the phenomena that you want to looking for, you want to study in your research, whether it is a quantitative, you want to study the quantitative phenomena or you want to study the qualitative phenomena. So friends, when you want to study the quantitative phenomena, then definitely you can say that that is a type of positivist, you are using a positivist approach. And when you are using a qualitative phenomena, then you can say that you are using a humanistic approach and non-positivist approach. Okay, further we will make it clear, we will discuss taking certain more examples. Then next we can discuss that a paradigm determines research approach and methods. So the paradigm that you are using in your research, okay, so that paradigm that determines the research approach and method. So as per the paradigm, means as per the positivist paradigm, what research methods you should use. So if the research paradigm is non-positivist paradigm is let a humanistic paradigm, then what research methodology, what research approach you have to use, that also determine. The next we can say educational research uses different methods. Okay, you can say that the research methods derived from or based upon positivist as well as non-positivist paradigm depending upon the nature of the problem being investigated. So friends, so now we should understand that when we are talking about the positivist paradigm and non-positivist paradigm, what really it means. So you see, in educational research, you can say when we conduct educational research, we use a scientific approach, or you can say a scientific method. You see, when we talk about research in science, mostly we use the scientific method. We do a type of experimentation. And when we do research in social science, you see, mostly we do it with a humanistic approach, okay, or you can say non-positivist approach. But when we, this is matter of research in science and research in social science. But when we talk about research in education, whether we do research in education by using only positivist approach or positivist paradigm, or by using only the non-positivist paradigm or the humanistic paradigm or the humanistic approach. You see, as you know, the discipline of education, you can say education combines the concept of social science or the practices of social science, the practices of humanities, as well as the practices of science discipline. Okay, so taking the concept from the science discipline, from social science discipline, from humanities discipline, language and literature, we have designed a discipline, that is the education. Okay, we prepare teachers. At the same time, as a broad discipline of education, we also use the concept education as a discipline, education as a parent and as an independent discipline in different areas of knowledge. Okay, so friends, when we conduct research in education, we use both both the knowledge of science, at the same time the knowledge of social science. It means here the paradigm that we use in social science is mostly based upon the non-positivist approach, and the paradigm that we use in science, which is based upon the positivist approach. So both the positivist approach and non-positivist approach, that is the humanistic approach that we use in understanding educational problem and conducting research in education. So that's why research in education deals both positivist and non-positivist paradigm or approach. Friends, in our next program, by taking certain example, by taking certain research methods that we really apply for conducting our research, we will discuss that how educational research deals with both positivist and non-positivist paradigm or approach so far as research method is concerned. But now it is clear that we use both the paradigms for conducting educational research. Okay, so as science deals only positivist paradigm, and social science, arts subjects and humanities that deals only non-positivist paradigm. But when we talk about education as discipline, we use here both types of paradigm, both positivist and non-positivist paradigm. Next, let us try to differentiate these two concepts. Already we have discussed the concept. Now we will differentiate these two concepts by taking certain example. You see, first we can say when we talk about the positivist paradigm or approach, you can say it based upon the objectivist approach. Okay, and when we talk about the non-positivist approach in research, we can say that it based upon the subjectivity approach. So two things I am saying here: one is the objectivist approach, and other is the subjectivist approach. You see, objectivist approach means when you are getting very you are committing very little error, means the results that you are getting a perfect result, you are getting a true result, you are getting a type of error free result, you are getting you can say valid result and a reliable result. Okay, so you can say, and it is possible when you are conducting research in science disciplines, in science subjects. Okay, so when you are conducting research by using the positivist paradigm, okay, so you are getting the objectivist, you are using the objectivist approach. But when you are conducting research in social sciences, in education and other areas of arts and humanities, then you can say you are using the non-positivist approach, and that is, you can say, the subjectivist approach. So here there is the chance to make certain error, and the decisions, the results that you are getting, you cannot say that you are getting a very objective result, because it is not matter related to physical science, rather it is matter related to arts and humanities. It is matter related to social science and education. Then next we can say positivist approach, you can say it based upon the scientific principles of conducting the research, whereas non-positivist approach it based upon the humanistic principles. Means you have to describe certain things, you have to observe certain things, then you have to do certain field based activities, you have to observe, you have to interact with the subject, okay, and you have to narrate the things. But in science, so here there is no need of any type of narrations, but what you can do, you can by using certain scientific methods, principles, you have to do the experiment, you have to verify the things. So that's why scientific inquiry is used in positivist approach, whereas you can say the social inquiry is used in a non-positivist approach, especially in the research that we conduct in social sciences. But you see both the approaches, the scientific inquiry as well as social science inquiry or the social inquiry, that both the concepts are used in research in education, because we deal both science discipline as well as the social discipline. The concept of education, you will find that certain concept is based upon the scientific research, certain concept is based upon the research in arts and humanities, social science research. So that's why we use two types of inquiry, scientific inquiry and social inquiry. Then again we can say positivist paradigm is based upon the quantitative data and its interpretation, whereas non-positivist or the humanistic paradigm is based upon the qualitative data and its description and narration. Okay, so we are getting quantitative data and we interpret that quantitative data by using certain statistics in positivist approach, and we get qualitative data by using the non-positivist paradigm, non-positivist approach, and we interpret it, we describe it, and we narrate it. We narrate the situation, we narrate the ideas, we narrate the vision, we describe the vision of great educationist. So that's why here you can say it's based upon the humanistic approach and it's based upon the non-positivist approach. Then again we can say in positivist paradigm, it is possible in experimental conditions with proper control upon the variable, whereas in non-positivist approach, you can say it is very difficult to control upon the variables as it is done in a natural condition, in a natural setting. So you see, control upon the situation, control upon the independent variable, and forming a group in a positivist paradigm when you are conducting an experimental research. So here you see you have control upon the situation, you have control upon the variable, because after all you have to find out, you have to establish, you can say the effect of the independent variable upon the dependent variable. Without controlling the situation, without preparing groups, control and experimental groups with certain control, then you cannot study the effect, you cannot study the impact. But so far as the non-positivist paradigm or approach is concerned, so here the researcher is having very little scope to control the situation, because you are doing the things at the field, at the natural setting, at the you are doing a field study, so you do not have a control upon the situation. So you are observing the things what is going on, okay, and you have to explain it, you have to describe it, you have to narrate it, you have to present it. Then further you can say the tools that we use in the positivist approach, mostly that may be a type of test, maybe achievement test, maybe you can say a pre-test, a post-test, means this is a type of performance test, maybe aptitude test, maybe intelligence test, okay, maybe creativity test. But when we talk about the research or the concept of non-positivist paradigm, means the tools that we are using in the education, in psychology, sociology, in arts and humanities, that to get data, mostly the tools that we use, that's a type of observation, that's a type of interview, okay. These are the very common tools for getting the qualitative data, because when we are using the non-positivist paradigm, we are getting the qualitative data. So friends, this is the concept of a positivist paradigm and a non-positivist paradigm, or that's called as the humanistic paradigm, that we use in educational research. In educational research, we use both the paradigm, both the approach. It is up to you, it is up to the researcher. You have to study, you have to analyze, you have to understand your educational problem, your research problem, and accordingly you have to explain your problem, you have to operationally define your problem, that what type of data your research problem it requires. So what type of data you will get, whether that data is based upon the positivist paradigm or the negativist paradigm. So if you require the quantitative data, then definitely that is based upon the positivist paradigm. And if you are getting the qualitative data by using the tools like observation, interview, if it is a qualitative study, then you can say that you are using the non-positivist paradigm. So this is the conceptual difference between positivist paradigm and non-positivist paradigm. So friends, in our next program, we'll discuss taking the example of different methods that we use in educational research. We will differentiate that where to use the positivist paradigm and where to use the non-positivist paradigm. Thank you.